So there you are. Now, my understanding is that along the way, you really did stare death in the eye, all three of you, and you're very lucky to get away with your lives. Tell us about that.
There was a couple of situations, but I think it would be fair to say all three of us would agree that it was just towards the end of the whitewater. You know, we'd kind of been through so much, and we knew we were close, about 2 to 3 days from finishing the whitewater. And once we finished that whitewater, we had then kind of joined, even then, an elite group of people who had, a handful of people who have done that.
Yep.
So we were kind of quite excited, and
Because of course, after you got past the whitewater, it was just piranhas and crocodiles and all
and
that
those
stuff.
little fishies that crawl up.
And the boa constrictors.
Correct.
And anacondas. So what happened, mate?
we were basically in the middle of a rapid. It was not much. It was about a grade 3 rapid. Everything was going swimmingly. And then out of nowhere, the whole river basically converged from about 30 metres into a 3-metre chute. And when you kind of have an understanding of how rivers work, and all three of us knew the implications of what we saw in front of us, and it's as if all three of us knew at exactly the same time. We all kind of looked at each other.
Paddle backwards, paddle backwards.
There was a silence, and then I remember Mark, he was sitting to the left of me. I was in the back controlling the ship, and he was in the front, and he turned around and said, "Nath, this is very bad." And I said, "I know, Marco, I know." And I think at that moment, I know for me, and I think it'd be fair again to say the other two boys, I thought, well, we're going to die here. Because when the water basically converges like that, pretty good chance you're not going to get through the other side because of strainers or what we call keeper holes down the other hide, with recirculating water that doesn't let you go. And to cut a long story short, we basically made it through the first part of the chute, then we got belted in the second part. We got flipped over. We got caned around in that recirculating water for a long time. But then when we got flushed out, which thankfully all three of us did, we were all stuffed, you know, like gasping for breath, and then see this boat in front of us. I swam to the boat. I knew Mark and Phil were on the side, so I swam to the boat, jumped on top of the boat. I could see rapids ahead. I had no paddle. I had nothing. So we have these special bags called throw bags. Tied the bag to one end of the boat, then did the old Indiana Jones dive off the boat, swam to the side, and it was like a sheer cliff face. It wasn't a high cliff face, but just a small one, but I couldn't grab a hold of anything but this cliff face. I got the boat in one hand, holding this rope, holding the cliff face on the other side, and I knew what was going to happen if I let go of that boat, so here I am screaming, and many profanities left my mouth at that time.
Don't blame you.
Yeah.
I think the good Lord would excuse you on that occasion as well.
But I actually had to let go of the boat. It was either me or the boat, and I wasn't too keen on getting trashed because I saw what was ahead. So I let the boat go, which unfortunately meant then we spent the next 4 hours trekking through the jungle.
Trying to find the boat.
So it was mountain passes. It wasn't the dense jungle you probably have a picture of as the Amazon, but still, you know, nasty prickles and things that kind of didn't give Mark much pleasure because he actually lost his shoes in that water.
No.
You're killing me.
So he's walking barefoot.
Holy dooly.
Yeah. And luckily enough, we found a remote mountain village, believe it or not, and they were very spun out by what they saw.
Yeah, what could you imagine?
Three men in helmets.
Just rocking up, one with no shoes on, looking quite homeless.
So, yeah, from there we kind of asked directions. Where can we get back to the river to see our boat? They showed us. We had a look at the boat, and then we thought, well, we saw it was stuck on rocks, so we thought that was great. So we headed back down the river, and to the point where we'd located it, and then you wouldn't believe it, it was stuck in the middle of the river with 2 huge rapids beside it. So we actually couldn't get to it.
Kidding. Yeah.
That night, again, we're still worried about rising water levels, and if the water levels came up that night, pretty good chance it would wash our boat away. So we decided to camp on the side of the river. We found a little cave and camped in there, one person on watch. And then as fate would have it, big storm came over, pouring rain, couldn't see a thing, couldn't see the boat. So we all camped up in the cave for the night. Very cold, very wet, very hungry.
Very hungry. So no food, no bedding, no nothing, just you and your wet gear, your river gear.
Yeah.
Because everything else is on the boat.
That's right.
So what happened the next morning?
I woke up and we had a look at where the boat was, and we kind of all decided as a group it's just too dangerous. Someone's going to die trying to get to that thing. So we thought, well, we'll make a plan to get out of here and and get back to civilization so we could sort out passports, some money, some things like that.
Of course, because they were on the boat.
Everything was on the boat.
Oh, my goodness.
So we wanted to do that and then reassess, well, how are we going to finish the journey? And to be perfectly honest with you, it was a very emotional day for us because we thought the expedition, some of us thought the expedition was over. Some of us thought the expedition as we know it's over. So we decided to do that. We went back to the remote village. Thankfully, these people, brilliant people, fed us. And I can tell you, dried fish and yucca, which is a special sweet potato, never tasted so good.
I bet.
So we spent a couple of days there basically recuperating, and they gave us blankets and things so we weren't freezing our little bottoms off. And then we went back down to the river with these local fishermen. And when we were down there, I kind of said to the boys, hey, listen, we're kind of here for a reason, you know. These guys have looked after us. I'm not leaving here today without us giving this a shot. So what happened, Mark swam over to the other side of the river to set up a bit of safety with his strobo.
He swam the river?
He swam across the top of the river, yes,
Not
to the
where
other
the
side.
rapids were.
Okay. Right.
Which was a big swim in itself, you
I'll
know.
bet.
So Phil, our South African teammate, he stayed on the same side of the river, and the plan was I'd swim out to the boat, try and direct myself to the boat in the middle of the rapids, with Phil kind of doing the old stop signals and right signals from the side. And then if I couldn't get to the boat or get the boat off by myself, the idea was Phil would join me, and we've got Mark further downstream as safety. Somehow I kind of made it to the boat. Even to this day, it's like I remember being so nervous before I went out for that swim, and to be
blame you.
perfectly honest with you, I kind of went behind a rock and had a little bit of a spew and a little bit of a poo, and it was basically just that fear factor kicking in.
Oh, yeah.
So after that, I kind of swam out there, and Phil's like,
How wide was the river at this juncture? Just trying to get a mental picture for everyone.
yeah, it's probably about 30 metres wide, and say if you divide that down the middle, so at the 15 metre mark, there's two huge rapids from that 15 metre mark, from a rock shelf in the middle, all the way out to the sides.
So roughly where Dumbledon Weir comes over and we go back into the Pioneer River, imagine water shooting through there at 1,000,000 miles an hour, and you've swum out across that to try and land right in the middle.
Yeah, I've kind of gone up as high as possible in the rapid to avoid the middle of it, which is the most dangerous part. So I've gone as high as I possibly can, and then I had Phil directing me down to the boat. So I kind of made it down to the boat with a bit of hop, skipping and jumping. There's a few hairy moments there as well. One of the things you really worry about on the rivers is what we call a foot entrapment, where your foot gets caught in a rock, you can't get out, and the water pushes you over. That was a real concern, and there was a couple of hairy moments through that section. Again, we could spend a day talking about it, but I got to the boat, somehow got it off the rocks, and we were very happy, man.
Wow. Unbelievable. What was the reaction of the villagers to what you guys were doing?
The first reaction was loco, and as you know, loco means
Crazy.
crazy. Three crazy gringos. What are you doing? And as they got to know us a bit more, they kind of it was like a friendship that developed very quickly with them. Not only because of what they offered us, they offered us food and blanket and were very hospitable, but they were just lovely people, They were there to help us, and it didn't matter, what kind of crazy ideas we had, they were going to help us. So yeah, they were spectacular, and without those people in that particular location at that particular time, I would hate to think what the result would have been.
Gonski.